Well, I can almost say good afternoon, but there is a little bit of time left for industry and then Q&As. I can tell you industry is a very exciting industry these days. I'm in this space for 26 years, and I think it's never been more exciting than the last couple of months, last couple of years, because there are a lot of changes and a lot of new technology that enables those changes. And in case you forgot over the coffee, that's the architecture that we're using to drive that change with the customer. Now, I'm with Schneider for 14 months, and I can tell you when going to the customer and talking on the C-level, this is an architecture that really resonates with them. It really resonates because the architecture is independent of necessarily products that we bring to the customer, but it focuses in on their problem. It focuses in on their domain where they're active. And when you talk to industrial customers, many times, many of those domains are really relevant. And as you will see later on also, I'm be talking about power and a grid as well, because if we go to large installations, that's what they're asking us to do and to furnish. Obviously, I'll also will take some time to go a little bit more in depth with the cybersecurity. Every time you talk to the customer after you've taken the first step, the next question is, how about cybersecurity? How can you help us on the OT level of the world to make this happen? Now, given some of the movements in the market, obviously, we want to reiterate the importance from our perspective to be a full liner in the automation scope, including the automation product and the software. And why is it important that we have automation product and software? Because these two worlds are converging. And a lot of my speech this morning is going to talk about those convergence and how one of the technology is influencing the other, driving growth. I think that's very important. Jean-Pascal has talked about a market of 120 billion. We see the first 100 billion here. That's we would say the traditional automation market, but obviously it is also heavily influenced by two movements that we see in the market, and that's the end-to-end engineering software in the industrial space and IIoT. And don't worry that the IIoT bubble is so small here. It's only the platform and some of the services that are there, but it's really influencing the whole market. So this slide has just only good messages for Schneider Electric, 4 of them. And obviously, some of our contenders are also sharing some of them, and it's quite good to be in a market that is growing again. We haven't seen growth in a couple of years, the tough years, but we see growth being back, and it's back throughout all geographies, and it's back throughout all end markets. And that is something that we haven't seen for many years. So also when you go into the primary materials, we see quite some activities in the quotation phase going up that makes us quite positive as we look into the future. The second positive about the slide is that the IoT services create new opportunities because many of our customers, and you'll see this in some of the examples, where we have traditionally talked to the engineering managers or the plant managers, IIoT is elevating this discussion to the C-level, and it allows for much more opportunities for us to discuss with the customer. The end-to-end integration of software is really driving expansion. Not all of our competitors see that in the same way. I'm sure you're going to be convinced after you've seen my presentation that this is really happening, that we bring the end-to-end life cycle of the design build also into the operational world of operating, maintaining, and optimizing the asset. And then last but not least, very important for Schneider Electric is the huge ecosystem of partners, be it technology partners, be it system integrators, be it developers that help us expand in the market. But let's have a little bit of a deeper look at the 3 layers of EcoStruxure. I start off with the products that become connected products. And you would appreciate that probably a push button that you can buy for a couple of euros is probably not necessarily connected to the internet. If you bring a couple of those together, that may make sense. But if you have a push button for 5 euros, that's probably not so relevant. 50% of our offers, or more of them, are connectable offers that we bring into the market. As they become connected, you need to invest also into software. So a simple product already has software in it. So if somebody tells me, well, you have a hardware business, no, it's a software business. And you see, as we go through the layers, the investment in software is increasing step by step. Very simple tools that we're also using, resonating extremely well with our customers, like printing QR codes on our products. Imagine you open the cabinet, you see a lot of products in there, and you're searching for the fault, and you know, no papers there, no phone number to call. Everybody has a mobile phone. You scan the QR code. In case you want to do it on the printout, please use your iPad. This is not going to work with the phone, just with the iPad in this case. But the customers are telling us, well, this is great for our maintenance staff. On the shop floor, they're going to get information that they haven't gotten before. It's great for our partners because they can get the same information. Very, very simple tool. And as you walk through the Innovation Hub later on, look at some of the products that have the QR code. That's going to come massively with all the new products. Very concrete positioning, number one in control and signaling globally. I think that's well known. But also, if you look at low voltage motor control and including low voltage drives, a very solid and strong number one position in this market. We've talked a lot about edge and that everything is moving to the edge. And I've been asked many, many times, well, are these edge controllers going to go away? You've heard from Kevin and from others, actually a lot of things moving into the edge. Maybe the edge is going to be packaged in a different way. Maybe a PLC control today is going to be packaged in a different way tomorrow. But the key is that 75% of our R&D investment goes not into the hardware, it goes into the software that controls the process, be it a safety system, a DCS system, or a PLC system. It is a heavy, loaded software package that controls very close to the process, the manufacturing side, or the plant. We have, over the last 3 years, completely renewed our portfolio of safety systems where we're number one, DCS system that we've purchased through Invensys acquisition, and our PLC family. So totally new products available throughout the edge level at Schneider Electric, giving us, I think, strong positions in the market that we can talk about. Now, obviously, when you move to the apps, analytics, services, and software level, needless to say, this is all software. And having said that, and on one of the earlier slides that Jean-Pascal used to show, it said, software is running everything. Well, obviously, that's the case here. Now, if you, and I'm going to be talking about the end-to-end horizontal engineering software that we have expanded through the reverse merger with AVEVA, but also all the advisor functionalities and all the apps that go in here. Now, the beauty of our software is in the strength of the installed base. Many people talk to me and say, oh, well, this is all the old Wonderware, HMI, SCADA. To a certain extent, that is correct with the installed base. But the ability to have that base made it very easy for us to upgrade it to the system platform that I'm going to be talking about that allows for greater connectivity and that allows for much more management of data. So 100,000 sites in the world that have our system platform installed already with 2 million licenses sold, and this is the data magnitude. And if you want to talk about big numbers, here are some big numbers. These are the data points or the assets where we collect data and manage data. 4 trillion industrial transactions on a daily basis. So quite massive. Now, this is the industrial software I'm going to be talking about, but I also want to talk about shortly about the applications, and Jean-Pascal mentioned earlier 40 of those are out there, 20 under development, 15 out of the industrial space. Why is that significant, and why does it differentiate us to others? And you'll see later on when you go into the Innovation Hub that some of those applications are really easy to install. They can pick up small users with a very, very low investment, a couple hundred euros, but they're going to scale pretty vastly and quickly. And I'll have one example that I'm going to show you later on. That's how customers can very easily connect their assets that they have out there, machine tools, packaging machines, plants, larger installations, to help them improve profitability, to help them improve service, maintenance, and a couple of other things. So, but let's, the click is not working. Yep. But let's focus in on our industrial EcoStruxure industrial software suite. In the process world, where we are heavily active, it is all about the asset life cycle. The asset in that respect is the plant. Our customers want to make sure that they can, and obviously if you go into the oil and gas market, you've heard this over the last couple of years, they want to drive costs down. So one of the things they're asking us, how can they lower the cost, the time to bring the asset to production, and how can they decrease the risk of a capital project of building or upgrading one of those plants. And that's where the strength of the combined Schneider Electric and AVEVA will come into place. Now, once you have the asset designed, you know, that's the plan, design, and build process, you go into operations. Now, the beauty is that the industrial software is also an integral part of our process control system. So these two layers, or these two systems, very easily, seamlessly talk to each other. The operations cycle, where the plant is running, plus the digital twin that has been built here. And as these two communicate to each other, these two worlds are converging, and you can generate a lot of customer benefit if you have both in one hand. The enabling technologies are IIoT, augmented reality, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence that will bring the engineering layer and the operations layer together. And you'll see a very great demonstration later on in the lab that shows you how to accomplish that one. Now, there are, of course, a lot of software packages included here, and traditionally, this was made up of a lot of niche players that had functional softwares that our customers needed to integrate on their side together. Now, by bringing this all together under the roof of Schneider Electric, it allows us to start off kind of with the birth of the digital twin through the design process, where you start figuring out what kind of pressures do you need, what kind of raw materials do you have, what kind of temperatures do you need, and you build this into a plan and into a control system, how you can operate this plant. So that's going to be done here. Once you have built it, you go into the operation. Then it's really about control and information of the asset, where you want to see how is it operating. I want to have all the information available. And then with the digital twin being available, you can go actually into optimizing this asset and reduce the operating cost and make the plant more efficient. Now, we've put all of this together with the packages that we brought under the roof of Schneider Electric with the AVEVA acquisition, to allow our customers to move flawlessly from the design process of the plant, so where you have the temperatures, the pressures, the raw materials, into building a plant, so where you have the piping, you have the construction, you create the bill of material, and you move into the engineering management of the plant. then into the operation. And the beauty is, if you move from building to operation and you can use the same digital twin in the operations, there are a lot of things you can simulate. You can simulate on the screen because the virtual world and the real world are connected via our control system, via IoT that brings additional information to the digital twin, and your operation becomes much more efficient. And then, of course, if you go into the maintenance and the optimization of the asset. Now, these are the packages that we have brought together, and some of you have, of course, participated in the September 5th press conference. One of the things that is not clear to everybody, how we can, with the packages that we bring together from AVEVA and Schneider Electric, how we can eliminate some of the interfaces that are here, from the process simulation to the basic engineering. So you have a unified engineering space that creates quite a bit of savings for the customer. And then later on, if you move into the operations lifecycle, and you can use the digital twin to do that as a real copy or a real twin of your plant, you have the next saving. And who can tell this better than one of our customers? And if you look here at the President of Technology and Consulting from KBR, he has pointed out the 4 million saving for one capital engineering project just by having the unified engineering platform. But also, he can envision already as you use the digital twin and move into operations, there are additional savings. And one of the things that's not on here is if you can reduce the time of engineering, that means you bring your asset earlier into cash. And that's probably the biggest advantage that some of our customers see and have, and we are receiving quite a bit of positive feedback in that. Now, how is that going to look in real life? We have a little bit of a plant here, and this is on an iPad. He's zooming into the plant, looking, for example, for a certain pump where he wants to go in the 3D model. He zooms into the pump. He looks what kind of maintenance data is available. What are some of the operations data that you get real life to the pump? And if you can read Italian, you can see how this valve can be demounted in this operation. This is a little bit simple and quick how we want to show it here, but a very excellent presentation over there where you can also see with the augmented reality how this comes together. Now, 2 weeks back, I visited a chemical customer. They have roughly 1,000 plants, so it's not a small one. They have 1,000 plants in worldwide, and they said, we want to use in our 4.0 initiative augmented reality because we want to exactly bring the digital twin and the real operations together. And they've decided 300 plants, they roll out our augmented reality. That may sound like a small project. But if you think about it, if you go into the plant with these lenses, you ought to have a wireless in the plant. I can tell you 5 years ago, you make this suggestion to anybody, they say you're out of your mind, we're not going to put wireless into our plant. They roll it out in 300 plants. So look at that investment, bringing wireless capabilities into the plant to be able to use that technology because they see the benefit of using that technology. And then, there is a whole lot of other things that need to happen afterwards. They have a 3-layered hotline that they need to establish. For the first time somebody uses it, he needs to know where can I turn it on, what's the password, and so forth. Then you move to the next level where people, need to say, how am I really operating it to get the benefit? And then the third level is where the experts come in, where there's also a connection to our side, where we can help them in improving the factory. Now, what also happens is, of course, that The real DCS system is run on a different network than the augmented reality. Just for cybersecurity reasons, they keep this totally separate in that respect. So quite exciting what's going on there. But we're not only talking about oil and gas or heavy process. Some of the software packages also are pretty strong in the infrastructure, utilities, food and beverage, and hybrid industries. And one of the things I want to point out that obviously the key packages, meaning the information management and the operations control, so system platform plus HMI, SCADA plus historian functionality is available throughout all industries as we go forward. Quite unmatched of a portfolio that we have in this end. But as you go out of the oil and gas space or the heavy process, obviously what's very important is that you have a huge network of partners. Because in hybrid industries or in infrastructure, many of the customers, they rely to system integrators that are pretty local to them, that can help them deploy the automation and the software into a total solution. And from that perspective, the network of partners that can deploy our software and that can deploy automation technology is 4,200 of them on a global basis, a very widespread network. Within those system integrators, there are roughly 5,700 developers that are certified by us. They can program on our software development kit to create applications for the customers. That's very decisive. We want to make sure that they are qualified and that they are certified so that they can tell the customer, Schneider Electric has certified me, I'm proficient on the system and I know what I'm doing. Obviously, we need a lot of technology partners. As Jean-Pascal mentioned, we are very open in that respect, and we want to work together with partners that can also help us make that happen. For example, Microsoft and the Azure stack is something that has helped us, where we had a long working relationship together. Now, with the certified developers and the system integrators, we're estimating that roughly per year, 40,000 different apps are created globally. The only issue that we're having is how can a developer that has developed the app in Australia maybe sell it to somebody in Canada? It's quite a challenge, and I'll let you know later on what we're thinking of doing in the next year to accelerate this process. Now, if we're talking about the food and beverage industry, and I have an example here of a customer that does not come out of the United States or China or Germany. I think we have plenty of those examples because they're fairly advanced, but out of a different country that wanted to make sure that they're driving productivity up by creating a transparency to what they're doing in their factory, increasing the output by 15%, so to more than 600 tons of products per day more, and they're using the complete suite of products on the software side plus our automation to face the challenges that they have in this market. And we'll have a short video that for those of you who speak Turkish can understand, but we have a little bit of a translation to it as well.
10 yıl içerisinde üretim kapasitesini 600 ton günlük değere ulaştırdı ve halen daha kararlı bir şekilde büyümeye devam ediyor. Bizim aradığımız şey aslında arka planda güçlü bir sistem ve aynı zamanda bize esneklik sağlayabilecek, güçlü şablonlar oluşturabileceğimiz, yazılımlar geliştirebileceğimiz bir platform arayışıydı. Analog değerleri işlemek biraz daha zahmetliydi. Fakat çok basit, primitif düzeyde otomasyonlar yapabiliyordunuz ve en önemlisi de ne yaptığınızı kaydedemiyordunuz. Yani kayıt altına alma imkanınız yoktu. Aslında Wonderware bize en temelde bunu sağladı. Yani verileri hızlı bir şekilde izleyebilme ve her an kayıt altında tutabilme esnekliği kazandırdı. Wonderware'in birçok ürününü kullanıyoruz. Özellikle sistem platform, application server, historian ve Access Anywhere ürünlerini şu an işletmemizde.
So this was EcoStruxure Turkey. Obviously, you can see the expansion all over the globe. That's why we wanted to choose this example here to let you know that this is happening all over the place, sometimes in different speeds, but it's quite important. Now, if we look at what the software expansion and the expansion of the system platform has helped us to do, is really to bring in more and more asset on-premise and on the cloud to improve the building and the asset lifecycle management of our customers. The integration of the horizontal software layer, so where you design and build and improve the digital twin, with the integration of IIoT and the data that comes out of the control system, has helped us and will continue to help our customers to improve their CapEx and OpEx cycle in total, and it will bring us also much closer together. And the system platform, as I said, and I want to reiterate it as being part of our DCS system as well, where we have a large ecosystem of partners and developers and thousands of applications out there being developed, is driving growth for the company. Now, there are also a lot of additional IIoT services and new business models appearing in our business, and I think that's critical. When we met the last time in London a year ago, we've been talking about our discrete automation business and how we're accelerating the automation of machinery. And it is important that if you go to an OEM customer, you discuss the application, you need to convert the customer, then they build the machinery with our equipment in a lot of different industries, be it packaging, handling, hoisting, HVAC, and so forth, where we have a very strong position. You can see the acceleration of machines that we are converting. This is really the connected products plus edge level. But what's happening is that, of course, we want to support the customer also in their design and in their build phase. Even so, we don't have some of the software packages that are out there, but we can utilize what they have in helping them do a smart design, the engineering, the commissioning, and the operations. And I think this is very, very well received. When I was at the PAC Expo in, I think it was in Düsseldorf or Düsseldorf. It's every 3 years, and we've had 350 machine builders that are customers of us there. And while our people traditionally only talk to the engineering managers of those companies, by demonstrating the capabilities here, plus the IIoT services that I'm going to demonstrate in a minute, we've had almost every single CEO or managing director of the company come that had never engaged before, because for them it's not the core. Once you talk about this, this becomes at the core of their operations, because it allows them to sell their machinery all over the place, maintain it, and service it much, much, much easier. Now, the machine that you saw earlier is a packaging machine that does these coffee capsules, and they do thousands of those in a minute. Imagine there's a little problem in the machine. You have piled up a couple thousand of those capsules in the machine. It's quite messy if you don't know how to operate and to maintain it. So it's important that you can help assist the customer. These machines have 76 servo axes that move all at the same time, fully coordinated, and they have done this almost cabinetless. And I have a little picture of the machine. It was too expensive to bring one here. So why do I have the picture? Because I'm now the maintenance manager, and this machine is here. And if all works well, I can show you a live demonstration. Even so, I'm advised not to do this kind of stuff. I use one of our IIoT augmented operator advisors. So imagine I'm the service guy, and I have a problem with a machine. So I scan the machine, and the software detects, oh wow, I know this machine. So I'll take a picture, and here's the cabinet. Here's the cabinet. So I virtually opened the cabinet. What's in there? And when I presented this in Hong Kong to roughly 100 people that build machine tools and that operate machine tools, they start saying, oh. Why did they say that? Because I said, I can show you the drawings. And if you worked on the shop floor, you open one of those cabinets, the first thing you look for are the drawings. They're never there, never. Somebody takes them out, never puts them back, they disappear. Now here they are, stored on the cloud, wonderful. And not only that, you can go into also the user manual. So you look at the user manual, or you close the cabinet. I'm totally excited about this. The other day, Jean-Pascal called me Saturday and said, what are you doing? He said, I'm playing with EcoStruxure Augmented Operator Advisor. Because we got to use our products if we want to be convincing to the customer. So if you're in service, you can also have videos. You look at the younger generation; they want to see YouTube videos and this kind of stuff, how to operate this. So you incorporate this into this tool here, and that's what I meant earlier. These are very easy, simple applications that help the customer tremendously, because they can do quite a lot of things. And there is a more sophisticated demonstration in the Innovation Hub later on, because you can also, and it's not possible here, but you can also get real-time data as the machine is operating. It will show you safety zones and so forth. So I can tell you it resonates very well. Wherever we go, we demonstrate that the customer immediately wants to deploy. This was something we a little bit underestimated, I have to say. But so we quickly came with a development toolkit that allows our partners and the customers to do some of those applications themselves, because every machine is different. It requires different manuals, as you can imagine, different schematics, different videos they want to bring in. So they take a picture of the machine, they do some of those touch points, and put data behind it and can operate it. Extremely cool. Just one example out of the 15 and the 10 more to come. A second example is if there are a lot of companies that are starting to give digital services to the customer. They need a platform of software that can support them, like this startup here out of Australia. They said, we're going to go and do digital services for mining and minerals companies. We connect them with a system of systems approach. So they connect the factories, bring the data up, analyze it, and give suggestions on how to improve, for example, the concentrator input here of the copper mine, or a coal mining process, and create real savings for the company. Now, this being a startup, we can see this all over the place, that people want to use the software and start off their own company, and obviously they're using the whole suite of our products. Now, to wrap this a little bit up, we believe in the market with IIoT, with augmented reality and the horizontal software, we're getting into quite a nice market expansion cycle, and it starts really off with an installed base of our system platform. I've talked about it, 100K sites, and then it's critical that you increase the number of applications by developers. So the 5,700, roughly 1,000 in-house. It's not so important how much you have in-house, how many you have in-house. It's more important how many you have out there in the field, close to the customer, because that interaction is very important. And then, of course, some customers have their own developers. We don't know how many. So you want to bring more applications to the market. And these are the 40K that we see roughly for this year. And as we go into 2018, we'll be introducing a very nice marketplace where one can sell his application to somebody else, or where people meet. And so that's going to go online in 2018, as some of those industrial applications can be used multiple times. Don't expect that they're used as many times as you see the ones that are sold on the Apple phone. These are specialized. But if somebody can sell his application 2, 3, 4, 5 times, this is already a pretty big success, we believe. And it creates value for the customer. We've talked about the energy-saving process improvements, and with that reduced cost and more efficiency. And that will, that drives the customers to bring more assets on the platform. And it drives them to do the connectivity. You know, my chemical example from earlier, 5 years ago, they said, no way, we're going to put a wireless into a chemical plant. Now they do 300 plants almost at the same time. So the transaction I've talked about, and how many assets we're managing, roughly 4 million. One asset can be a total plant, and behind a total plant, you know how much equipment is behind. And as I said, I think that's very important, the digital twin of the plant will further accelerate that, because you bring the virtual world and the real world really together. So a quite exciting story. But as I said earlier, the second question the customer has is, how about your cybersecurity here? How can you help me to improve that? And there is, I'm sorry, there is no silver bullet to the problem. It's quite a dramatic work that needs to be done with the customer. But it starts off in our own premises. Of course, it starts off by having secure development sites. And you can approve them. You can make sure that the products you're developing don't have software in it, and I said earlier how much software we're doing, that the software that's in there is safe. Sometimes if you use, for example, public domain software, you got to make sure that this is not infected. And then, of course, our core offerings have the right security features after the IEC, I think 62443 standard. I can tell you that some of the countries come up starting with their own standards, for example, in China, where we also are in accordance with the standards. And that's very critical. There are national standards that we need to fulfill, in particular as we move into the delivery of the products to the customer and do installation work or do a systems work. And by the way, that's the case throughout all our domains. That's why we do this once for the customers in total in the company, and not 4 or 5 or 6 times, just once. So that's kind of the basics that we deliver. But then it obviously goes further. Once this is installed, you want to work with the customer together, because it's not only about a technology, but it's about a security in depth. And that includes technology, of course, I've talked about that, but it also includes processes, and it includes the people. So it's also a cultural topic, that people are in line with the processes that you need to define. So we've come up with a 5, or including training, a 6-step approach that we sell to the customer as a service. And it's focusing on the OT space. I mean, for those of you who visited a plant floor, you see all kinds of equipment from all kinds of vendors, and you don't even know whether a certain equipment have an IP address. Some people don't know whether a certain controller that was built in 1950 has a protection in it or not. Our people know, because they're experts for IT and OT, and in particular trained on the OT side. So they go on site, they can assess the situation, they can assess the procedures that are there, and they come up with a risk profile for the customer. Once they have the risk profile, they're going to make some design suggestions, how they can make the site more safe, and also the policies and procedures that need to be implemented to be in accordance with the respective laws or requirements in the countries. And then many customers say, this is good enough for me, I'll do the implementation myself. But obviously we're offering that as a service as well, driving this one, then implementing it, bringing respective hardware, do software updates. You don't want to have an IT guy go into a plant and look at the control system and says, oh, this is an old version of Microsoft, I maybe put a patch on it. We've had customers do that. I mean, the next thing that happens is the plant goes down, because the control system and the new window systems weren't compatible to each other. Then as you go into the monitoring, obviously we don't have cyber monitoring systems, but we work together with partners, depending also on the size of the customer. That can be as large as IBM, or it can be smaller companies that are locally available and have this monitoring software that is implied. And then, of course, as you operate the facility, you also want to make sure that this is maintained as you go forward, and you need to train the people and so forth to have a real working cycle. Now, I can tell you it's a little bit hard to come up with a customer example because nobody wants to be named with having cyber written somewhere. So I cannot disclose the names, and we've tried pretty hard on several examples, but nobody, be it a bank or be it a critical infrastructure or be it a factory, nobody wants to talk about it. But I'll give you the example here. When our people went in, there's quite an aging infrastructure of control equipment, unfortunately in this case, or fortunately that we got the business, none of Schneider Electric. Our people also know other control systems. So we've done this for somebody who is busy acquiring a company with zero revenue at a pretty high multiple in the cyberspace. We've decided to build this business up ourselves, and it's a very nicely growing business on a small base, of course. And they came up with a risk assessment, a gap analysis, made some suggestions how to move forward, and to make sure that they apply with all standards that are there. And the result was, a 90% reduction in plant-wide risk profile. It's, as I said, there is no golden bullet. What you want to make sure is that you're more secure than others, I guess. So I've talked a lot about software. I've talked about the automation, how this comes together, but I also want to kind of cross it over to larger customers that worry about energy. And we say we do energy management and we do automation, and they go together. When you automate something, you want to have a very close communication to the power system to be able to show savings, to suggest savings, and so forth. So here are a couple of customers that we've engaged with over recent periods of time with products and with Schneider. And I want to show you two examples and why it is significant. The challenge that many of our customers have is if they have a large project, they want to make sure that they have really an on-time project delivery, and they know pretty well what the critical path is, whether it is the automation system or whether it's some heavy-duty equipment that goes in and so forth. In this case, it was the automation that was on the critical path. They also wanted to make sure that they have e-houses in there, and they wanted to make sure that there is reduced site activity. It's quite normal. People want to have as few people on site as possible. So with that requirement, you know all of a sudden that the number of competitors that you have, remember my slide number 3, the number of competitors goes down. And in this case, we only had major DCS suppliers as competitors, but the customer wanted to have a total package. Made it pretty good for us. It was a nice order, and as we finished it, there were also quite a few change orders that we like a lot, and almost doubled the size of the project that was delivered on time, even at a larger scope. But also another one, if you go into the water space, the second largest expense that they have is energy after labor cost, and the challenge that they had is to drive down that cost, and they had quite a comprehensive offer. They were looking at basically everything we have to offer, from automation, project management, software, transformers, low, medium voltage cabinets, a total package. And again, you see a couple of competitors only came in with a DCS system, so it reduced the number of competitors that we had in this space. And here we also did a good job in bringing EcoStructure architecture to life at the customer. And as we had some of those TVDAs, some of you have heard those before, they are technically validated, documented architectures, so we don't need to have the engineer try things out over and over and over again, but they're built on a platform, and with that you reduce the risk on your side and maybe also improve the margin in that respect. So that's a little bit what has happened in this space. And to wrap it up and go back to the 6 foundations that Jean-Pascal has shared earlier, I think we're clear on our IIoT-ready architecture and the system platform that we're offering, a very new and really top-of-the-line edge portfolio throughout the different automation markets, and the digital life cycle, where we also bring in the horizontal software play with IoT, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence. These 2 worlds will come together. It is extremely important that you bring a domain know-how and domain expertise to it. Otherwise, you're allowed exactly 2 times to the customer. The first time you come is also the last time. Because you sit with people who are food and beverage experts, or you sit with people who are mining experts, or you sit with people that are chemical engineers, and you've got to have people who speak their language in addition to being experts in automation. And then, of course, the large digital portfolio. I've shown you one exciting feature in that respect that can be sold to OEM customers. This application is, you can get it for 400 euro, I think. So it's not very expensive, even if you build it 1,000 machines a year. And that's where it starts then making a lot of sense if you get all this data also onto the cloud. And then, oops, this was the wrong direction, sorry. And then I've talked about the partner ecosystem that we have and how is accelerating itself. And I think that's one of the things where Schneider Electric is very well known of our ecosystem of partners. They're eager also to move into the IIoT space, utilizing some of those simple applications. You see where that also makes sense if you bring this together. And there is quite a bit of training with them also that they can bring this to the market. So I think IoT paired with the horizontal software transform the automation market. I hope if you haven't been convinced before, that you're convinced now. And the digitalization of industry, you're very, very well placed with Schneider Electric to lead this forward, because I think we've seen the trends early enough. We've moved on them and bring it to the customer as a full liner and discrete hybrid end process, which is important as we've shown with the examples. Our horizontal software is, of course, process-centric, but it is driving the end-to-end digitalization process and hybrid-centric, I would say. What we have achieved is transforming the HMI SCADA that has been known under the brand of Wonderware into a platform, or into a platform where a platform is on the platform. Why am I saying this now? You've seen examples where people want to just look at something in their factory, but they may have several factories. And the startup was exactly this. They have it installed in all the mines and all the different facilities, and they bring it one level higher on the cloud, where they can do additional analytics to it and drive it forward. So I think that's the beauty of coming from the ground floor, moving all the way up and having this installed base. The ecosystem of renowned Schneider Electric partners, I think, and then obviously, as I said right in the beginning, an EcoStruxure architecture that really echoes with the customers and enables a very easy start. Many people are confused also out there. It allows for a very easy start and a cost-effective scaling as you move forward. And I've shown this with one of these examples here earlier to get the IoT benefits in the market. Having said all that, I think we're almost back on track. Thank you. Thank you very much.